Khaleesi time, here we go. The mischief began a long time ago in a small Ohio town where Jonathan Bella, an averagely horny high school student, lives his insignificant life by crashing his father's car while watching D-cups walk down the street and getting his rocks off by reading numerous magazines. His life turns around when he meets the new kid in town. Eugene Harbor is used to dealing with ladies and immediately makes it his mission to assist Jonathan in losing his virginity to his crush Marilyn because there's nothing else to do in their pits at Ohio town. Gene also takes an immediate liking to Bunny Miller, who is currently dating the biggest douchebag in Nelsonville, Ohio, Kenny Brubaker. The new friends attend a fair where the girls will be present. Jonathan sees his crush at a kissing booth. She hasn't noticed his existence until now. He plays spin the wheel in hopes of kissing Marilyn but ends up having to kiss another girl. Because Bunny is there, Gene goes for it as well, but the will ends up in Marilyn. Gene goes for it and takes his sweet time kissing her, which annoys Jonathan. Gene then takes more money from Jonathan and goes for another spin on the wheel after he's been cooked. But this time it falls on Bunny. They kiss passionately before Gene tells her he'll be seeing her around. The next day, Gene gives some advice to Jonathan about how to talk with girls and how to present himself. He also criticizes his outfit and tells him to shrink his jeans. So his boldness sticks out, and girls are fascinated by that. During the class, Gene tells Jonathan to drop his pencil so he can take a better look at Marilyn's pants, and when he does, the teacher makes him stand up and repeat what has been said so far. Unfortunately, the class and the teacher are greeted by his boss when he does. After school, Gene sends Jonathan down the street to talk with Marilyn. But he gets distracted by a sudden noise and crashes his bike into a nearby parking car. Marilyn helps him out as Jonathan grabs her breasts out of nowhere. He apologizes. But Marilyn doesn't seem to mind. Jonathan thanks Gene afterward, since this is the first real breast that he touched, but Gene reassures him that this is nothing and that he will be going all the way. Marilyn suddenly arrives and asks if Jonathan is feeling better, but he soon realizes she is not there for him as she asked Gene out to watch a drive-in movie with her and gives him her number. Jonathan is rightfully upset as he suspects Gene will foul. Gene swears he won't touch her, which is a good thing because they know where Marilyn is, and Jonathan can ask Bunny to come that night. As the night comes and the group gets into the car, Marilyn starts to snuggle toward Gene and tell them how much she likes him, which annoys Jonathan in the back seat. Kenny's friends notice Bunny there and quickly go to inform their friend. Gene and Jonathan go to get some Coca-Cola and root beer for the girls, but they are soon confronted by Kenny and his knucklehead friends. Gene steps forward to defend Jonathan, claiming that he is the one who posed the amusing question. Kenny tells him to meet at another place nearby in 15 minutes. When Gene arrives, Kenny suggests they play a game of centerline chicken, where they both drive head-on with their cars and the first to turn away loses. They both refuse to turn until the last second as the two cars bump into each other. Kenny comes out swinging at Eugene, but everyone starts fleeing when they hear police sirens. Gene's father vents his rage on him because he wrecked his car and won't be able to get to work the next day. We gradually learn that Gene has issues that go far beyond the local Richie Rich hating on him. Gene shares with Jonathan that his mother has recently passed away and that his abusive violinist father had to quit his job with a symphony to move them to Nelsonville. Gene's father beats Gene out of pain for his loss and to discipline his troubled son. Funny breaks things off with Kenny eventually and decides to start a relationship with the bad boy in town. Gene, from Maryland, sees them in the hallway and runs away in tears. Jonathan visits Gene, who starts working as a part-time mechanic to pay for the damage caused to his father's car. Jonathan has given up on Marilyn, but Gene insists he keeps trying and makes him call her and ask her for a date. Jonathan believes there's no point, but he relents and calls her. To his surprise, Marilyn accepts. Gene advises him to take the initiative and go for it. After the date, Jonathan walks Marilyn back to her house, and they kiss goodbye. Both Gene and Jonathan start a relationship with their dream girls, with Jonathan and Marilyn not missing an opportunity at every turn to master the art of heavy petting. One afternoon, while Gene and Bunny are bareback riding in a local pasture, Jonathan strenuously tries to get Marilyn out of her pants in a bareback rider in the front seat of his dad's car. When they get caught by their friends, The car door accidentally opens, Jonathan rips Marilyn's pantaloons off her body, and a couple creates a very memorable 1980s movie poster. Jonathan and Marilyn quickly get past their embarrassing petting session and decide to take their relationship to the next level when Marilyn's parents leave town for the weekend. Marilyn invites Jonathan to her house one beautiful Saturday afternoon and proceeds to lead him into her bedroom. Marilyn puts on some mood music and turns her innocent teddy bear away from the uproar. Many of the teens begin undressing each other, and we learn Mother Nature has blessed Marilyn with a pair of Golden Globes worthy of their awards ceremony. A naked Marilyn crawls into her bed and convinces Jonathan he needs to remove his underwear before the action can truly begin. This is it. This is the moment Jonathan has dreamed of for the last 18 years of his life. Just as the teens begin to explore their bodies, the backward Jonathan confesses to Marilyn that he didn't bring any protection with him. Marilyn tells Jonathan they can play, but they can't go all the way. Jonathan, being relentless, convinces his girlfriend to play just the tip. The joyous game proceeds and Marilyn's dog Lassie enters the room to see if Jonathan has fallen down the well. Marilyn gets distracted by the dog, but Jonathan stays focused, doesn't pull out of his mission, and completes his conquest. Marilyn is irritated because Jonathan promised only a tip and a pull-out but went all the way. He also discovered she was not a virgin, as he had assumed. Things turn comical when Marilyn's parents unexpectedly return home. Jonathan has to get dressed and flee the scene before he gets caught. He flies out of the bedroom window but ends up hanging right in front of Marilyn's mother, who also has the fortune of watching Jonathan's pants fall to the ground. Meanwhile, Bunny's parents want her and Kenny to get back together. So they set up a dinner with Kenny at their house, which Jean finds out about and gets angry with Bunny the next day. Jean is upset because the only reason Kenny is seen and liked by the Bunny's parents is that he comes from a rich family. Kenny and his friends visit Eugene at the gas station where he works and talk condescendingly to him as they make him wipe the mirrors and fill his car up. Later, Jean and Jonathan are having dinner at a local drive-in when Kenny suddenly shows up and starts telling Jean that her parents think he is trash and to stay away from her patients. Her patients run out, and he starts a brawl. Kenny's friends try to intervene. Jonathan jumps in to help his friend, but quickly gets sent flying and also receives a broken arm. Jean and Kenny continue to fight and trash the whole place until the restaurant owner comes up with a shotgun to stop the brawl and scatter the crowd. While Jonathan congratulates Jean for beating the crap out of Kenny Eugene, Jean's father is enraged by his son's behavior and kicks him out of the house forever. Jean decides to leave Nelsonville. Meanwhile, an injured Jonathan goes to school, where he gets bullied by Kenny and his friends. When Marilyn comes over and tells him that Jerry Yeager has died, he sits alone. The quarterback of their football team from last year is in town and has asked her out to be his date for the prom. She wants to go with him but wants to ask Jonathan first. Jonathan doesn't buy it. However, as he remembers, they had a lousy football team last year, and he tells her and Jerry to fend for themselves. Time passes as prom night comes. Jonathan is sitting alone in a bar when he is suddenly greeted by Jean, who just came back. The duo goes to the prom, where Jonathan sees Marilyn dancing with Jerry and Bunny with Kenny. Eugene is quickly told to leave as he is no longer in Nelsonville. A funny student notices him and chases after him but misses him outside as he rides off on his bike. Jean shares with Jonathan that he returned to town to ask Bunny to run off with him. He has found work on a Kentucky horse ranch and peace in his life. As Jean falls asleep, Jonathan rides back on his bike, where he meets Bunny outside. He gives her a ride to meet with Jean. The couple then reconciles and decides to leave town together. Jonathan tearfully parts ways for the last time with his friends. Jonathan informs Bunny's family that she has left town before running into Frick. Kenny, who has had enough of Kenny's bullying, goes demolition derby on Kenny's precious car in the middle of Nelsonville. Kenny tries to flee before his car is completely wrecked, but Jonathan pursues him through the streets until, triumphantly, he smashes Kenny's car into a fire hydrant, completely wrecking it. Jonathan returns and sees his friend Rosalie, who has a crush on him, and asks her out on a date, then drives away in his beat-up car. The movie draws to a close. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.